For those of you who want to skip some of the introduction in this video and get right into the nitty-gritty, you can jump to this timestamp right now. However, I suggest that you watch the whole thing because you might learn a thing or two. Hey, what's up you guys? Happy Friday, Friday the 13th. How about that? Nothing like a little guitar lesson on the unluckiest day of the year. Hopefully I can help you guys feel a little bit luckier when it comes to bending strings on the guitar just a little bit easier. This is definitely one of the first big obstacles that I see a lot of students face. A lot of beginning, I would say even heading into intermediate players. There are a lot of things that you can accomplish on the guitar while avoiding the need to bend strings. What do I mean by that for the beginners here? That kind of thing. If you're a fan of classic rock, if you're a fan of blues, this is especially prominent in those styles of music and guitar playing. So it's definitely something that you want to get comfortable sooner rather than later. So if you're learning some of your favorite guitar solos, you don't have to avoid all of those moments or try to play an alternate version that doesn't include any bending. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of a bending 101, right? Show you different types of bends, show you things to prepare for when you're trying this out and you may get frustrated, and things to help you expedite the process. So the first thing is, mechanically what we're doing is we are pushing the string essentially towards our face, right? So, right? Now, you can also pull it away, or, so you can do either of those. Usually what happens first is that when I tell one of my students to give this a shot, many times I ran into the same issue. This is what happens. The string slips out from underneath your fingertips. So I tell my students, you have to kind of get under the string a little bit. You got to dig in. So I'm going to get a little bit closer here. And this is what happens if you try to get too under. And then you've got the strings that you're not trying to bend on top of your fingers. Okay? So that's another obstacle. You really are just pushing the adjacent strings kind of out of your way. You want to keep them the same height, right, as you push them, because if it goes under, that's when you're going to have strings on top of your finger, right? And like I said before, if you go this way, they're going to fly out from underneath you, okay? Can you see how these guys right here, that's flat. I could rub my finger along that. Those three strings are on the same plane, okay? Because if they weren't, I'd run into some trouble. So that's... Okay, that's a huge thing to consider and to keep in mind as you're working this out. Another thing too is that I feel like people really try to muscle this more than you need to, right? These strings are not, it's not like pulling back, a bow. You don't need that much torque. You're just really pushing the string across the fretboard. So you're not just pushing straight across, right? You're kind of pushing down and across. Because if you don't, what a lot of people do is that when they go to bend, it's kind of hard for me to do this because I've been doing it a different way for so long, but they might bend and the string will kind of die at the top. I'm playing too lightly. If you keep the pressure, you have to keep the pressure on the string. And like I said, it's like you're pushing in and doing that, okay? So... All right, so some basic mechanics here. I want to show you a few different types of bends now, okay? So if you see on a piece of tablature, right, like a little up curve and it says full or 1, that means it's a whole step bend, okay? So if I saw that right after a 9 on the G, a whole step bend means you have to bend the note a whole step higher than the note you're starting at, okay? A whole step in guitar language is 2 frets higher than where you started. Okay, so this 9 is going to sound like the 11. This E will now sound like an F sharp. they should match. That's also a great way to spell check yourself to see if your intonation is good, if the bend is in tune, right? That is a whole step bend. Okay? Conversely, a half step bend is exactly what it sounds like. You are only going to bend up one fret or a semitone, right? So let's pick a different note. If I'm on a G sharp here, 9th fret on the B string, and I want to bend a half step, right? Then I'm going to only bend up to what's going to sound like this A on the 10th fret. Okay, so you've got a whole step bend and a half step bend. If I were to play it off the same note, this is a whole step. This is a half step. You can also do a step and a half bend. You realistically can bend this as many steps as your guitar can handle before you may break a string. A step and a half. So now I'm going to go 3 frets higher, right? So I got to sound like this A note here on the 14. I'm bending 11 to 14. All right, bend release. This is another good one. So this is where you start at a bend. You start at the top. This is a really cool trick. It's almost kind of like you're, putting the record in reverse, right? So you start up at about, whether it's a half step or a whole step. I'm doing a whole step here, so I'm doing it's like a reverse full bend. You're bent where you need to be. And so you pick at the top, write it down, and there you go. If it's a half step bend, okay, those are really cool. You can do a slide into a bend, which is really cool, getting a little bit advanced here, but this is great. So this is like that's a little bit trickier. You basically slide into a note and you bend immediately after. Last couple pointers I want to leave you with. When you are practicing these bends, one scale shape I like to reference in the beginning especially is your kind of box 1 minor pentatonic. Because very often in guitar solos you find something like this or this. Those 3 strings very, very good to know how to bend comfortably in those positions. And 2 things you want to consider are, if you have a bend at the top, right on the E string, it's like a 4 fret spread here. You can bend with 3 fingers, and you kind of have to jump back. But I would definitely practice being comfortable bending with both your pinky as the lead finger and your ring finger as the lead finger. Because these other fingers, some people in the beginning might try with 2 fingers or try with 1 finger. That can be very difficult. The other fingers behind the lead finger are meant to help you push that string along, okay? So right here, this would be like a 3-finger bend, right? And then you have right here, a 4-finger bend to a 3-finger. Those are really important tidbits to remember here, okay? I hope this helped. I feel like this is something that a lot of players can really benefit from. Like I said, it's a super common technique on the guitar, and you don't want to miss out because there's a lot of cool solos out there that have bends of all kinds, and I think you'll end up having some fun with it, and it'll be really rewarding. So please like, comment, and subscribe. If you guys like what you heard and you like what you saw, hope you found it helpful. Have a wonderful weekend. Cheers.